A $3 to $4 million car wash project pulled. Developers won't move forward with it, and Watertown stands to lose on thousands of dollars of annual tax revenue. It's the fallout on a city moratorium on the city sewer permit situation. 7 News reporter Lexi Bruning live tonight with more. Lexi.
Jeff, Watertown City Manager Ken Mick says it was news that city staff wasn't expecting. In fact, the planning department met with project engineers just last week and thought the project would proceed.
My understanding was that discussions with the planning staff was very positive, and they planned on going forward, and that the whole issue of sewer permits really wasn't going to affect them any.
But Splash Holdings, which planned to build a car wash on this Arsenal Street lot, had a change of heart. It sent this notice of termination of its purchase and sale agreement to the owners of this property, citing it was, quote, not acceptable. It comes just days after 7 News reported on a moratorium of sewer permits within certain areas of the city, including Commerce Park Drive, Coffee Street, and Jefferson County's busiest highway, Arsenal Street. The pause was put into place after Watertown dumped wastewater into wetlands in February, so sewage didn't back up into residents' basements on Butterfield Avenue. The state fined Watertown $22,000 and told the city to stop approving any new sewer connections in the affected areas. The city must come up with an offset plan by next month.
At that time, when they were having the discussions, they were also informed that because of the consent order, we couldn't issue any sewer permits until probably early next year.
Splash Holdings, a Connecticut-based company, has other facilities near the city, one in the town of Watertown and another in the town of Luray. There's also Precision Car Wash on Coffee Street, owned by someone else. On average, each brings in more than $10,000 in property taxes each year. There's also the lost sales tax now that the $3 to $4 million project is off the table. Councilmember Cliff Olney says that goes against what the city has been working for.
The effort has been for more commercial development, which means more commercial property tax, and also new sales tax revenue.
A meeting between the city, property owners, and engineering firm involved in the property will be held tomorrow to explain the sewer permit situation. Jeff.
Lexi Bruning live tonight. Thank you.